Hi, it's Alex from Mentoring Effect, and I have with me Rob Heldoorn from Aria Telco Management. Hi, Rob, how are you?
Good, Alex. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. I invited you because you will be our guest speaker for next week event, what we are running online, and I would like people to know something about you. That means I actually know a few things. I will just probably highlight the topics that were very interesting for me. That means
Sure.
I know when you were a teenager, you were living in Sydney, and
Yep.
you you almost become a professional golfer. And after that, you moved to, I think, Melbourne, and you're just moving across the country all the time. That means my first question is, what made you to don't become a golfer, a professional golfer?
It wasn't for lack of wanting it. It was probably more just for partly lack of effort, I guess, in reality. I was training for basically since I was 13 till about 18 or 19 years old, working at a golf course in Sydney, and had an apprenticeship lined up, and that kind of fell through, unfortunately. But it probably just came down to the fact that I just wasn't good enough. Quite frankly, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of golfers out there that want to become professionals, and there's very few that actually make it. So, congratulations to the ones that do, but it obviously wasn't what I was meant to be doing in the end.
Yeah, and you moved to Melbourne and you started to work in
Yeah.
sales, and after that again in sales, and you worked so much in sales. That means I actually noticed that is the big quality or big experience of a lot of people. They wrote so many books around business, and it looks like
Yeah.
it's common basic employment or training they had because they worked in so many companies and they tried so many sales technique. What is the difference, or how do you feel about sales?
I've got a lot of theories on sales. Some are good, some are bad. But look, my experience in sales is, I did start working for Optus door to door in Melbourne, selling mobile phones and landlines and ADSL to businesses back in sort of 2000, 2001. And just the way sales has evolved, and the telco industry in particular over that 20 years has been incredible. I mean, it's, what we were doing back then versus what we're doing now, and the practices and the systems and everything that we're using, it's just completely different to what it was then. So very, very different.
Yeah. What is the biggest, maybe if you can point out one big difference between sales in 2001 and sales in 2020?
So sales in 2000 versus sales in 2020, I think the biggest difference really is a lot of the systems and the automation and everything that we've got right now. Sales back in 2000 was very much, it was just purely manual process, everything. And again, talking specifically telco, but it really was, you had to go in and do the paperwork and get the ID and get on the phone to the activation center, and they'd activate it, and then you'd give them the phone. And it was very loose. There's a lot more restrictions around things now as far as what you can and can't do, which is great. It needed to come in because we had instances. I mean, back in Melbourne, it wasn't unusual for me to have $5,000 or $10,000 worth of phones sitting in the boot of my car at any one time. And this is back in the day when phones were worth $400 and $500 each, not $1,000 each, $1,500, $2,000. So there was but that was the way that it worked. Is you went in and you got a bunch of phones and you stick them in your car and you go out and walk around door to door for 8 hours and try and sign people up. And as soon as they sign up, you hand them the phone and away you go. You move on to the next one. But things have really tightened up a lot since then, which is a really, really good thing, obviously. But that's just the systems and what we're doing, the automation that we have available now is probably been the biggest, or had the biggest impact.
Yeah, I think, that's great that you actually grow with the different technologies and different experience what you had, and you're still growing, and actually you're adapting. And I think that's most important, to adapt to be successful. But what is your unfair advantage? Because I know you're a successful business person, and
I guess my unfair advantage is the fact that I have taken advantage of working for the different networks and working for the different like for Telstra and Optus and Vodafone over the years, and having the contacts within those companies. So now when I've come to set up my company, it's been more a case of, instead of setting it up where I'm just pushing one particular network, I've now got the ability to sell Telstra and Optus and Vodafone and Exetel and wholesale and all these different items that I would never have had the ability to do if I didn't have those connections within those different networks and the understanding of how they all work. So that's probably been my biggest advantage. I mean, it's, you know, over pretty much everybody else in telco that typically only sells, like, they'll just be an Optus center or a Telstra center or a Vodafone or whoever. So that's probably the biggest advantage I've got. I can put my clients where they need to go on what's best for them, rather than having an agenda of selling a specific set of services.
Yeah, that sounds like that is actually a big advantage. Yeah, that's amazing, because you basically know everything about competitors or everything about providers, and you can actually choose the best. And,
Seeing how all their system, understanding how their systems work and how the mentality works is probably the biggest thing. There's if you look at Telstra versus Optus, the mentality that they have internally is completely different, and it's just, how do I use that to the advantage of my clients, rather than having clients getting burnt by not understanding it.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually great. Yeah, because you have that inside view, I would say, and inside knowledge about culture and everything. Yeah, that's really good. And do you have any challenges in your business right now, or what is your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge at the moment is time, and it comes down to the fact that probably everybody could say that, right? But it comes down to the fact that because I'm so hands-on with my clients, I don't have a sales target in my business at all. I refuse to. And again, it's most people in sales or in telco would look at that and go, "You're an idiot. Why have you got no sales target? You need to focus on." But for me, that's not my focus. My focus is looking after my existing clients, rather than just running around trying to bring new clients on board. So from a time point of view, what I mean by that is, it's because I'm spending so much time looking after my existing clients, I'm not utilizing that time to actually grow the business. I mean, my business potentially could be 5 or 10 times bigger than what it is already if I was actually focused on purely bringing on new clients like most other telcos are. And so, you know, my biggest challenge is having somebody come on board, which I've actually had in the last day or two, which has been already brilliant. But have somebody come on board that can take away some of that management side, that knows how to interact with the networks. There's actually somebody that I've got that I trained when I was in Sydney. So she already knows everything anyway. And, you know, she's worked for a bunch of other companies, and I've finally been in a position to be able to bring her on. So she already understands how it all works. She already understands my philosophy on everything and how I operate. And hopefully that will free up some of my time, and I'll actually start to be able to grow the business as well, because she'll be taking care of a lot of those back end things that were my, or still are to an extent, my biggest challenge and taking up most of my time.
No, I think that's a great decision, because I was actually going to ask you, like, you probably need to start to delegate, because I know you love your work and you love what you're doing, and I know you love your clients, and that was my first impression, that I know you're very human oriented. That means you don't really care about sales, but you care about that customer experience. What I think it's very important. Yeah. And look, sorry.
No, look, I was just going to say, look, I mean, that was when I started Aria. That was one of the things I looked at, and having the experience of working across the different companies, I looked at it and said, okay, what are the best things about telco? And I want to incorporate those. But what are the things that I don't like about the telco industry, and how can I flip that on its head? And, you know, one of the main thing is probably the sales targets. The sales targets, and the fact that most telco companies, almost salespeople, they may have account manager in their email signature or on their business card, but they're not account managers. They've done it to make themselves sound better. But the reality is they're just sales reps. They've got monthly targets, and that's their focus, not managing accounts. And I've had a bunch of clients that have come to me over the last 12, 18 months where they've basically come to me because they said, look, the person I'm dealing with is great when I want to sign on a new service or what have you. They're always there. But if I ever have an issue, they don't want to know me. You know, I can't help you with that. You have to call customer service. That's their basic answer to everything. So I've had a load of business come my way purely because of that.
Yeah, I absolutely understand because I have some experience with other providers. And it's kind of like, I think a lot of people have experience, especially when something is going wrong, you know, like
Yeah,
nobody's answering their phone or nobody can solve the problem. And last time I was actually in the shops directly and asked for the problem because my phone didn't work and I just couldn't call anyone. And
yeah,
I found out that after all day of not working with my phone, like my phone was done and people were
yeah,
calling me, but I couldn't call them. And I just, yeah, didn't know what's going
yeah,
on. But I said
yeah.
they
For
don't know that they don't know when the issue will be done. It will be
yeah.
solved. And I was like, that's not the answer that I'm looking for.
Yeah. Oh,
But
look,
anyway,
and the
yeah,
reality is, in fairness, I can't fix everything personally. I just can't. But, you know,
yes,
I will
yeah,
never, I've got one rule for my clients, and that is I don't care whether you're with Telstra, Optus, Vodafone, Exetel, Pulse, like, couldn't care less. Whatever, as long as it works for you and you're happy, I'm happy. But my
yeah,
one rule is, regardless of who you're with, you never call their customer service team, right? Call me, let me deal with them. You get on with being a plumber or an accountant or a business coach or whatever you're doing, whatever your expertise is, and let me deal with these guys because I know how to deal with them and I know who to go
yes,
to get stuff done. So I will never get somebody to call customer care. If at worst case, I will call customer care on their behalf.
yeah,
Most of the time I don't need to, but worst case, I will call customer care on their behalf and I will conference customers into the
yeah,
call if need be, but I'm the one driving it. I'm not just expecting them to do that themselves and sit on hold
yeah,
for an hour to speak to somebody on the other side of the world that doesn't care and is reading off a script.
yeah. I'll
Yeah.
definitely look, guys. Call to Rob for anything that is happening. So anything happened with your phone or with your internet, or if you have any problem, because I think he's definitely the person that will help you and try to solve your problem for sure. And
Yeah.
next week topic that you will present is about, I think it's kind of 3 steps or 3 ways how to get the best deal from your
Yeah.
communication provider. Yeah, it's that.
Yeah. I wanted to go through, there's so many tricks and little things that these
Yeah,
sales companies and the telcos and the salespeople will use to try and get you to sign contracts that you shouldn't be signing. So I won't give away too much about it now, but it's basically the
yeah,
3 things that I've found in my experience, that if you cross off these 3 things off your list, you're a very good chance of making sure that you're getting the best deal for your business, for your telco
yeah,
services, whether that's mobile or fixed line or what have you, and we'll go through
yeah,
all that next week. But that's essentially what it's about, is just those 3 tips, and make sure it's just a checklist. You know, if you
yeah.
cross these 3 things off, you should
Good.
be pretty comfortable.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. And I will
No
see
worries.
you on our online event next week.
Looking forward to it. All right. Thanks,
Yeah.
Alex.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Cheers.